Canada's censorship bill explained. A chilling law that lets the government censor user-generated content. The bill will hurt Canadian creators and users, benefit mainstream media outlets, and make it difficult for small platforms to operate. Canada's Online Streaming Act, Bill C-11, is one of several recent attempts by Western governments to crush online speech while claiming that they support free expression. The bill is being pushed by Canadian Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez, a politician who believes that unregulated speech erodes the foundations of democracy. And it has the full support of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, a world leader who previously said freedom of expression isn't freedom to hate. The Trudeau regime first attempted to pass a version of this bill in 2020. However, this bill, Bill C-10, failed in 2021 after mass pushback over the way it attempted to censor online speech. After Bill C-10 died, Pierre Poilievre, the current leader of the Canadian Conservative Party of Canada who was serving as a Member of Parliament, MP, in 2021, warned critics of Bill C-10 to make sure that we're ready the next time Trudeau and his team come for our freedom of expression. And just 1 year later, Trudeau and his team did just that by resurrecting Bill C-10 and renaming it Bill C-11. The bill gives Canada's communications regulator, the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, CRTC, increased powers to regulate programs, a definition that applies to almost all forms of audiovisual content that are uploaded by Canadian citizens. It will empower the CRTC to set content promotion and demotion rules for Canadian content and require platforms to make financial contributions towards Canadian content. As with most censorship bills, Bill C-11 uses freedom of expression as a red herring and claims that the bill will be applied in a manner that is consistent with the freedom of expression and journalistic, creative and programming independence enjoyed by broadcasting undertakings. But the bill is so restrictive that even censorship-loving YouTube has warned that the bill will harm creators and creators are considering leaving the country if it passes. Here are the main things you need to know about Bill C-11. It empowers government regulators to censor user-generated content. When pushing Bill C-11, Rodriguez has implied that it won't apply to user-generated content by repeating the phrase, "Platforms are in, users are out." However, the actual text of the bill gives the CRTC vast powers to decide whether almost any piece of user-generated content uploaded by Canadian users falls under the scope of the bill. Section 4.2 of the bill states that the CRTC may make regulations prescribing programs in respect of which this act applies. And while the CRTC is expected to consider 3 factors when making these regulations, Dr. Michael Geist, a law professor at the University of Ottawa, notes that these factors are only considerations that the CRTC can simply ignore. Much like the lip service the Commission has given at times to policy directions, the CRTC is free under the bill to confirm that it considered the factors in setting the regulations and adopt a different approach, Geist said. The bill itself empowers the CRTC to indirectly censor any content that falls under the scope of Bill C-11 by imposing conditions on Canadian apps, social media platforms, and websites. One of the most controversial conditions the CRTC can impose is a condition related to the presentation of programs and programming services for selection by the public, including the showcasing and the discoverability of Canadian programs and programming services, such as original French language programs. This condition lets the CRTC decide whether content that falls within its scope should be boosted or demoted on Canadian apps, platforms, and websites. And according to Geist, this condition could result in platforms that host user-generated content being forced to demote content and apply warning labels to a wide range of lawful content. These resources make it relatively easy for these platforms to comply with Bill C-11's requirements to identify Canadian content, prioritize Canadian content in a way that's compliant with CRTC orders, and make their financial contributions towards the production of Canadian content. However, smaller platforms with more rudimentary technology and less revenue will find it harder to abide by the requirements of Bill C-11. Some may even find the cost of compliance to be so prohibitive that they're left with no choice but to pull out of the Canadian market altogether. The potential privacy issues associated with Bill C-11 could also harm smaller platforms that are attempting to differentiate from their big tech counterparts by offering a more private experience for their users. These platforms could be forced to start collecting personal information to comply with the bill's discovery conditions, and in doing so, lose their competitive advantage over the tech giants.